Hello everyone, myself Sumangala Biradar. Today I am going to explain about authentication. What actually authentication means? It is a process in which a principal proves that he or she it is the entity it claims to be. Means what you have to prove the identity of the person. That person may be he or she, or you can generally call as an entity. That is the identification of the yourself. It may be any person or entity you call as an authentication. How you will claim that? For claiming that you are having the two ways. One is one-way authentication and another one is mutual authentication. One-way authentication means what? You only, if you want to communicate with any other entity, then you only prove yourself as a genuine user. Genuine user is as a authentication. Identification of the person is the genuinity here. Mutual authentication means both the entities must mutually prove themselves as a genuine users. So now how will prove that genuinity? For proving that you are having the two ways. One is password based authentication or certificate based authentication. These are the two ways comes under what? In one way authentication. Mutual authentication if you want, then these are the three ways are there to mutually authenticate each other. First one is shared secret based authentication, asymmetric based authentication and authentication and key agreement. First we will see one way authentication. And in one-way authentication, first one is password-based authentication. For example, for example, if you want to do anything in any website, if you want to do anything, for example, I'll take your Gmail. So now you want to open your Gmail account. For that, what is the procedure you have to follow first? If you don't have the account, first you have to make registration. While during registration, you have to enter the information about the users. So now here that user is what? Client. And server is what? That is the Gmail. Okay. So now this client want to open the Gmail account. So then for that first it has to register. While registration, during registration you entered your username and password. Those username and passwords are going to stored in the server database. Whenever you want to use that Gmail account, first compulsory you have to enter your username and the password. Now when you make the registration, that time your username and password you have to send from your side to server. Means during transmission your password and your username can everyone see here, because as I told earlier, this is the you are using the open source network for making the communication. Open source means anyone can access the information. So if any hackers or third party access, and they can utilize this information to prove themselves as a genuine user. So now what is the problem? This is the problem, because your password and username everyone can access here. Then your aim is what now? You have to provide the security for your password. How will provide the security? Instead of sending this password as it is, you convert this one in another form, in a secret form here. So how you are doing that procedure? So now here your username, usually everyone know the username, but password is very important, and that password you have to send secretly. So that's why here you are using the security, you are providing the how you are sending this password. Instead of sending this password directly, you are generating the hash function of the password, and what are the hash value you will get? No, that hash value you are sending to the server. So H of PW means what it is? For the password you are applying the hash function. So now that hash function, after application, your password is converted in the form of the hash key, and that hash key you are transferring from client to server, and server will store what? Server will store only the hash values here. Okay, thank you. This is about what? Password based authentication. And one more is there, that is the certificate based authentication. So this one is the simple. So now as you know that nowadays what are the any websites if you want to use or any apps if you want to use, this is the procedure you follow, and this procedure you call what now? Password based authentication. One more higher level authentication if you want, then you go for the challenge response protocol. Challenge response protocol, so how actually it works, let's see here. For example, assume that A and B are two entities. So now A want to communicate with the B. Then A entity has to prove the genuinity as a authentication here. So for that, first A will send the message as a identity of the A to B here. Next, to check whether that A is genuine or not, B will send the challenge response protocol as a nouns. Nouns means what? It is R. R is the nouns. Randomly generated number it is. And once it is generated, it is not repeated. So now that nouns you are sending to A. After received by A, this A will send that password of the A and also the nouns. So one thing you remember, to provide the security, because your password must be secure. So you are applying some function here, that is f of pw comma r. Meaning of this one is what? You are applying some function to provide the security for your password and nouns. How you are providing? So you have to decide that, that is what? F. You have to select the function in such a way that it must be one way. One way means what it is? Mutual, it is not possible. Only one side you can apply the function. After it is received here, same function not be repeated back to A here. So as I told earlier, for example, in encryption and decryption, what is the procedure? What are the message you will get now? Same message you can retrieve back using the decrypt procedure. That is you call as a two-way. But here it is what? One way means what it is. So now for this one, you can convert as a encrypted or as a some value, but decrypting, that one is not possible here. Once if you convert your password and nouns using any function, that value is only one sided. Encrypting is possible but decrypting is not possible. So such type of the things only you call as a one way. One of the example, as I told earlier, hash function. Hash function generates a hash key. From the hash key getting back password in nouns is not possible here. That is the thing here. So if you know hash function and also you know the what is the nouns, with the help of the hash function and nouns, it is highly impossible to guess what is actually your password. So that is what you call, you have to select the function in such a way that it must be infeasible to compute the password, even if you know the function and also even if you know the nouns also. So now that is the thing, how we'll decide. So now challenge response protocol means what it is. So from the other entity, it sends the challenge to A, prove that you are the genuine user. So now that is what you call as a challenge response protocol. Nowadays, for example, along with the password, so one more extra thing it asks, that is the what? Your captcha. Captcha is like a challenge. It is sent by whom? It is sent by the other party. So now here, as I told you how to choose the function, that function must be one way. Usually you already know that hash function is the one way function and it is also infeasible. All the properties of the hash function you already know that. So now here I am sending the password and the concatenation. This parallel indicates what? Password added it with the nouns and you have generated the hash value for that particular message. Now message contains what? It is password and noun sent by whom? Sent by the entity B. And after concatenation, what are the message you'll get? No. For that message, you'll generate a hash key, and that hash key you are sending to entity B now. So now this is what is as we call password is used as a key for a encryption of random number. So this is one function. Here you are using the hash function to prevent your password and to send back along with the password your response, challenge response protocol. One more way is there. Instead of using hash function, you can also apply the encryption method. So now while encrypting, this is the procedure. So what are the nouns you have received? No, that nouns is encrypted using what? Password of a entity. With the help of password, now you are taking as a key. And okay, with the help of that key, you will encrypt this nouns and you are sending that to entity B here. These are the two ways you are using to give the response to nouns whatever it is received by B. Nouns is what? It is a challenge response protocol. Response protocol means what it is? Some procedure or rules you have to prove that is you are the genuine user. Now here this is the second way. In the first way you are using the function hash, and in the second you are using as a encryption. In the third way, for example, even if you want this B entity while sending the nouns, you want only entity A receive that nouns. Others can't see what actually nouns you are sent to the A now. So for that here, so now A will send the identification to the B entity, and B entity what it will do? It will send the challenge response protocol as a nouns. Nouns is what? Random number. But that random number you are sending back with the encryption. So that encryption with the key as a password. Assume that A and B both know the okay what is the key is used. If A and B both use the same key, then you call that one is what? Symmetric key. So for encryption and decryption you are using only one key, that is the public key, okay, and private key both are same here. So now that's why A and B both know that key. So now here instead of sending that nouns, B what will make? B will encrypt that with the password which is known by A and B, and it sends to A. Now A entity decrypts that nouns and it reply back to B now. So now thing is what it is. Now B is want to prove that A is the genuine here. So for that it sends the response protocol with the encrypted way using password PW. This PW is a password known by whom? Only A and B. So then only A can decrypt and it can send that nouns back to B. So then B will know that yes, I am getting the response from the A only. This is the one more way of proving the authentication based on what? Password based. See, in the password based also you are following the three different procedure. One, directly you are sending. Instead of sending directly, you are using the hash function. This is the one way, but even along with that, this we want more security. For that it generates a challenge response protocol and it want the reply for that protocol from the A here. So while replying, so it want along with the password that response protocol with some function. That function may be hash value or it may be encrypted. Or this is the one more way of the proving the genuinity. Next one is actually you are having the two ways to prove the authentication. Another way is what it is? Certificate based authentication. Certificate based authentication means what it is? So you are using the certificates. Okay, usually if you want to communicate, so then you can also have the digital certificate. So in the digital certificate, signature of the CA must be there. If that certificate is there, then you have to send that certificate to B to prove that you are the genuine user. Okay, so now here same thing, A and B. A is what? Client, and B is the server, and it is one-way communication. That's why here only A has to prove that I am the genuine user. So that's why A sends the certificate chain. Okay, that is the certificate of A. Okay, digital certificate with the signature of the CA. And after receiving, B will send the reply with the nouns as a random generated number. So now A will do what now? A will encrypt that nouns here. So for the encryption, earlier you are using what? You are using, okay, earlier for the encryption you are using your password. But if you are using certificate based, means what it is, generating of digital certificate means what it is. So now you are sending your public key to everyone. Whoever want to communicate with you, yes, they can communicate with you using your public key. In the same way, you know only private key. So that private key is used for which purpose? For to prove that is the I am the genuine user. Yes. Now for encryption, instead of using the what? Instead of using the password, now you are using what? Private key of A, and with the help of the A.pr means what it is? It is the private key of A, and you are encrypting the nouns with the help of these keys, and you are sending that to B now. Next. Problem here is what it is. So this private key must be known by B also. If it is B is having the private key of A, then only it decrypts and it can get that nouns back here. Usually, as I told earlier, so if you are the owner, you know private key, and your public key may be known by others here. So that's why, so instead of using private key, this B, okay, B will encrypt the nouns using what here? Public key. See, while encrypting by A using its private key, and it encrypts the nouns and it sends to B. But B don't know the what is the private key of A here. Okay. So for decrypting, what B will use? B will use the public key of the A, and it will decrypts. But so now B can know the public key of the A. Instead of sending that nouns directly, here you are encrypting that nouns with the help of public key of A. E means encryption, and you are encrypting using what? PU. PU means what it is? Public key of which entity? A entity. As I told earlier, A public key is known by B also, as B is known that is what is the public key. That public key, it is available in your certificate. Whatever the certificate you are sent to the B know, in the certificate chain you are having the public key of the A. So that public key B will access. After accessing that, it encrypts, it generates nouns, and that noun is encrypted and it sends to A. So now A will use the private key of A, and it decrypts the nouns, and after decryption it sends that that nouns to B. Whenever B receives the nouns, if it is same, then B will identify that as I am getting the messages from the authorized, or authentication of the A is proved based on this reply. Thank you.